When my wife died, my son said, "You can't bring Mom back, and my wife's birthday is only once a year." These words hit me like a slap in the face. The next day, he came to me with a vital request, as if nothing had happened. It was my chance to make amends for the insult he had inflicted on me and his late mother, and I took that chance. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let us know where you are listening in the comments. My hands trembled as I dialed Kyle's number at 8:30 a.m., adjusting my black tie for the third time. Margaret's empty coffee cup sat on the counter, lipstick still faintly marking the rim. The kitchen felt hollow without her morning humming. 4 rings, then Kyle's groggy voice. "Yeah?" "Son, it's Dad." I straightened my shoulders. "The funeral starts at 11:30. Loud music thumped through the phone. Laughter echoed in the background, Megan's voice shrieking about decorations. Kyle cleared his throat. "Dad, I told you yesterday. Megan's birthday party is tonight. We've been planning this for months." The words hit like ice water. I gripped the receiver tighter. "Your mother's funeral is today, Kyle? Once in a lifetime?" "Look, Mom's not coming back, but my wife's birthday only happens once a year. We've got caterers coming, the band's setting up. Your mother raised you for 35 years, and I appreciate that. But I can't just abandon Megan on her special day. You understand, right?" The dial tone buzzed in my ear. I sat motionless for exactly 3 minutes, staring at Margaret's reading glasses beside the phone. The kitchen clock showed 8:47 a.m. My wedding ring caught the morning sunlight streaming through windows she'd cleaned last week. I found the funeral program on the counter, Kyle listed as pallbearer. My pen scratched his name out with deliberate strokes. At the cemetery, faces turned expectantly. "Where's Kyle?" Patricia, Margaret's sister, kept asking. I practiced my response. "Important commitments." The words tasted bitter. 23 people came to honor my wife of 40 years. Her son wasn't one of them. I stood alone beside the casket, surrounded by Margaret's garden club friends and our old neighbors. The empty space where Kyle should have stood felt enormous. "She was so proud of that boy," Mrs. Henderson whispered, always talking about his success. I nodded, throat tight. Margaret had defended Kyle until her last breath. "He's just busy with his new life," she'd said when he missed her chemo appointments. "Young couples need space." The pastor spoke about family bonds and eternal love. I watched dirt fall onto polished wood, each shovel full burying not just Margaret, but my illusions about our son. Driving home, I gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles whitened. The passenger seat where Margaret used to sit stretched empty beside me. She'd always insisted we take her little Honda instead of my truck, said it was better for the environment. The radio played her favorite song. I turned it off. Our street looked the same. Neat lawns, painted mailboxes, the life we'd built together. I pulled into the driveway and sat for a moment, gathering strength to face the emptiness inside. The front door key turned with its familiar click. I hung my keys on the hook Margaret had installed, a small, everyday action that felt monumental in the silence. No humming from the kitchen, no television murmuring, just the house settling around 40 years of memories. I loosened my black tie and sank into my armchair, the brown leather one Margaret always said clashed with her floral curtains. She'd wanted to redecorate for years, but I'd been too busy building the business. Now those curtains would stay forever. Our wedding photos smiled from the mantel. Margaret at 23, radiant in her grandmother's dress. We'd married right here in Davenport, promised each other everything we had. I delivered on that promise, maybe too well. The memories flooded back, unbidden. Kyle taking his first steps across this very living room, chubby hands reaching for Margaret's outstretched arms. Birthday parties with handmade decorations because we couldn't afford store-bought. Margaret working double shifts at the diner while I got the construction company started. She'd never complained. Not when I worked 16-hour days. Not when we ate macaroni and cheese for weeks. "We're building Kyle's future," she'd whisper after he'd fallen asleep between us in our bed, too young for his own room. I found her Bible on the nightstand, bookmarks still marking Psalms. A handwritten note fell out. "My dearest Alan, please don't let Kyle forget us. We gave him everything we had. I hope that was enough. All my love, M." My hands shook reading her careful script. In the closet, I discovered the special box she'd hidden, Kyle's report cards, saved from kindergarten through college. Every A-plus celebrated, every achievement treasured. She'd written little notes on each one. So proud. Our brilliant boy. The graduation photos hurt most. Kyle in his cap and gown, degree paid for with Margaret's overtime hours and my weekend jobs. Total cost, $200,000. His proud smile never acknowledged the sacrifice behind his success. I pulled out my calculator and started adding. The house down payment I'd given him, $350,000. His wedding to Megan, $75,000. His first car, $35,000. Graduate school he'd insisted on but never used, $48,000. The emergency loans for vacations, Megan's shopping, failed business ventures. Margaret's coffee mug still sat in the dishwasher. Her romance novel lay open on her nightstand, bookmark waiting for eyes that would never read again. Get-well cards from friends covered the kitchen counter, people who'd cared more about her final months than her own son. The numbers kept climbing. Kyle's total, take over 15 years, $847,000, nearly $1 million of our lives, handed over with love and hope. I remembered my own father, a hard man who'd given me nothing but the expectation to make my own way. Build your own character, he'd said. Maybe he'd been right. Darkness fell outside. I didn't bother turning on lights. A car pulled into the driveway, engine idling. I didn't get up to check. If Kyle wanted to talk, he knew where to find me. The engine revved and drove away. At 6 a.m., I sat at my mahogany desk with file folders spread in precise rows. Kyle, education. Kyle, house. Kyle, wedding. My coffee grew cold as I opened the calculator app and began the reckoning Margaret had been too kind to demand. The reading glasses reflected my computer screen as I pulled up bank records. 15 years of transactions, each one marked transfer to Kyle or loan Kyle emergency. The papers rustled in the quiet house. The only sounds in my new reality. College tuition first. 4 years at $52,000 each. I remembered writing those checks. Margaret working extra shifts to cover our own bills, while our son partied at Iowa State. Then graduate school, another $48,000 for an MBA he'd never used, dropping out of the program to find himself in Europe. That European trip, $35,000. Just temporary, Dad, until I get established. The house purchase nearly broke us. Kyle at 25, standing in our living room with Megan's ring on her finger. We found the perfect place, but we're a little short on the down payment. $350,000. I'd co-signed the mortgage, covered every penny of the down payment. Family helps family, Kyle had said, hugging me tight. I'll pay you back once the business takes off. What business? He'd been working for me since graduation, drawing a salary he hadn't earned while learning skills I'd hoped he'd value. Margaret's secret notebook fell from the files, her handwriting documenting every sacrifice. Anniversary dinner canceled, needed $5,000 for Kyle's car repair. Postponed my doctor visit. Kyle's wedding costs higher than expected. Bought generic groceries this month. Sent Kyle money for Megan's birthday. Her final note cut deepest. We gave Kyle everything. I hope he remembers us kindly. The calculator's numbers climbed. $847,000. More than $750,000. My father had given me $20 and a handshake when I left home. I'd built everything from nothing, and Kyle saw it all as his inheritance to spend while we were still alive. I remembered him calling my company a family business last Christmas, as if he'd built it beside me instead of walking into a ready-made position. Megan had nodded approvingly, already planning how to spend profits I'd earned with 40 years of labor. My business mindset kicked in. This was a problem requiring a solution, not grief requiring comfort. I'd been emotional too long, making excuses for behavior Margaret had worried about in private. Maybe we're doing too much for him, she'd whispered after Kyle's latest emergency. Her photograph watched from the desk corner as I closed the files. I stood up with new resolve, feeling something harder than grief settling in my chest. You were right to worry, I told her picture. The phone rang. Kyle's name lit up the caller ID. I stared at it for 4 rings, and then answered, Hey, Dad. Hope you're doing okay after yesterday. Kyle's voice carried that familiar, cheerful tone, the one he used when he needed something. I noticed he didn't mention the funeral specifically, didn't ask how I was coping without Margaret. I'm managing, I kept my voice steady, staring at the financial documents scattered across my desk. Good, good. Listen, I'm calling because we need to cover some unexpected costs. Megan's party went amazing, but we kind of went overboard. You know how it is. You only turn 32 once, right? In the background, I could hear Megan's voice. Tell him about the band. Yeah, so we hired this incredible live band, took everyone to that new steakhouse downtown, got Megan this gorgeous diamond bracelet. She deserves the best, you know? But now the credit card bills are coming in, and we're looking at about $15,000 in immediate payments. 15,000, I calculated quickly. Loan number 47, over 15 years. Yesterday I'd buried my wife. Today my son wanted money for a party. So can you just wire it to my account today? Megan's really stressed about the bills, and you know how she gets when she's worried. The moment stretched between us. I looked at Margaret's photograph, then at the neat columns of numbers documenting Kyle's total cost to our marriage. No. Silence. Then, what do you mean, no? Is there a problem with the bank? I mean, no, Kyle. I won't be giving you any more money. The cheerful mask slipped from his voice. Are you seriously saying no to me right now? After everything we've been through this week? Everything we've been through. As if he'd suffered through Margaret's funeral instead of throwing a party. You're 35 years old, Kyle. So, what does that have to do with helping your son out of a jam? It's not like you can't afford it. Megan's voice escalated in the background. Tell him we need that money. We already spent it. I said no. The words felt strange in my mouth. The first time I'd ever denied Kyle anything. This is unbelievable. His voice turned cold. Mom just died, and you're being petty about money. She'd want you to help us. The manipulation was so casual, so practiced. How many times had he played this card? How many times had Margaret and I folded because he invoked family loyalty? Your mother wanted you at her funeral. Kyle's breathing grew harsh. Fine, fine. We'll figure this out ourselves. Max out more cards, borrow from Megan's parents, whatever. But don't expect us to come around much anymore if this is how you're going to be. The threat hung in the air. For 35 years it had worked perfectly. Kyle's presence as a reward for Alan's money, his absence as punishment for saying no. I understand, I said calmly. You... what? I understand. Take care, Kyle. I hung up before he could respond. The phone sat silent on my desk, no longer an instrument of manipulation. For the first time in decades, I'd ended a conversation with my son on my terms. I opened my laptop and scrolled to Kyle's employee file. Tomorrow morning, we'd have a different kind of conversation, one conducted in the office where I was the boss, not the father who'd forgotten the difference. If Kyle wanted to treat me like a stranger, I'd accommodate him professionally. At 7:30 a.m., I walked through Foster Construction's lobby, 2 hours before Kyle's usual arrival. His employee photo hung on the management wall, smiling confidently in a suit I'd bought him. Today I studied that image with different eyes, seeing entitlement where I'd once seen promise. In my office, Kyle's personnel files spread across my desk like evidence in a court case. 8 years of employment records told the real story. Missed deadlines, contractor complaints, inflated expense reports, projects delayed because Kyle prioritized long lunches over supervision, client relationships damaged by his casual attitude toward commitments. I'd made excuses for all of it. Family loyalty, Margaret's gentle reminders that Kyle was still learning. But these documents revealed a pattern of professional negligence that would have ended any other employee's career years ago. At 8:45, I called Sarah Mitchell to my office. As HR director, she'd need to handle the paperwork properly. Her face showed no surprise when I explained my decision. She'd been documenting Kyle's infractions for months, waiting for me to act. I'll prepare the termination documents immediately, she said quietly. Security escort? Yes, standard protocol for management terminations. I practiced my speech in the office mirror, watching my reflection deliver the words with steady professionalism. No emotion, no explanation beyond what the law required. Kyle would enter this room as my son's employee and leave as a terminated worker. At 9:30, Kyle strolled in 15 minutes late, joking with the receptionist about his recovery from Megan's party. His laughter echoed through the lobby while co-workers glanced nervously toward my closed office door. He stopped at the coffee machine, completely oblivious to the storm ahead. "Kyle, please come to my office immediately." My voice through the intercom carried new authority. Kyle's casual response drifted up the hallway. "Sure, Dad, just let me grab my coffee." "Now, Kyle." The silence that followed told me he'd heard the change. His footsteps approached slowly, heavier than usual. When he opened my door and saw Sarah waiting with paperwork, his smile faltered. "What's with the formal setup?" He attempted his usual casual tone, but uncertainty crept through. I remained seated, hands folded on the desk. "Kyle, your employment with Foster Construction is terminated, effective immediately." His laugh sounded forced. "Very funny, Dad. What's this really about?" I slid the termination papers across the polished surface. "Please review these documents and sign where indicated." The papers seemed to burn his fingers as he picked them up. His eyes scanned the legal language, face growing pale. "You can't be serious. This is our family business. This decision is based on your work performance and professional conduct." My voice remained level, businesslike. "Your position has been eliminated due to restructuring." "This is about yesterday's phone call, isn't it?" His voice cracked slightly. "Look, I'm sorry about the money thing. We can work this out. Security will escort you to collect your personal items." Kyle's demeanor shifted from disbelief to desperation. "Mom wouldn't want this." "You know she wouldn't." He leaned forward, trying to invoke the guilt that had always worked before. I pressed the security button. "This is a business decision, not a personal one." Mike Thompson appeared in the doorway, professional but sympathetic. Kyle's face flushed red as he realized the humiliation was real. Co-workers gathered in the hallway, watching their former boss's son being escorted out like a common criminal. "Dad, please." Kyle's final appeal came as he grabbed his coffee mug and desktop photo of Megan. "Think about what this means." I met his eyes for the first time during the encounter. I have. Through my office window, I watched him load his pathetic collection of personal items into his car. His shoulders shook with rage or grief. I couldn't tell which. When he looked back at the building one last time, I turned away. Sarah returned with the signed paperwork. "All access codes have been changed. His computer access is terminated." I removed Kyle's photo from the management wall myself, placing it face down in a drawer. The empty space looked cleaner somehow. My secretary knocked gently. "Mr. Foster, someone is here to see you without an appointment." Designer heels clicked aggressively across the marble lobby floor. Megan Foster stormed past reception without waiting for permission, her perfectly styled hair slightly disheveled from the wind. Kyle followed behind, looking embarrassed and defeated, a shadow of the confident man who'd entered this building an hour earlier. "How dare you humiliate Kyle like this?" Megan's voice carried through the open office door as she pointed an accusatory finger at me. I remained seated, not acknowledging her theatrical entrance. Kyle positioned himself between Megan and my desk, his embarrassment deepening. "Megan, let me handle this." She ignored him completely. "We have bills to pay, Alan, a lifestyle to maintain. This family business belongs to Kyle, too." "This is a private workplace," I said calmly. "You need to leave." Her face flushed deeper red. "We deserve severance pay, at least 6 months. Kyle's worked here for 8 years. You owe us." Kyle's weak attempts at mediation fell on deaf ears. "Dad, please, can we discuss this privately?" "No," Megan cut him off. "He needs to hear this. I know about wrongful termination laws." "Kyle was an at-will employee," I replied evenly. "No severance is required by law or contract." Megan's attacks turned personal with venomous precision. "Margaret would be ashamed of how you're treating her son. You're having some kind of breakdown, aren't you? Just a bitter old man taking out your grief on us." Kyle's face went white. "Megan, please don't say that." My jaw tightened, but I maintained composure. This was exactly the reaction I'd expected from her, manipulation disguised as righteous anger. Kyle tried desperately to regain control. "Dad, I know I messed up with the funeral. I'm sorry. But destroying my career won't bring Mom back. Think about what this means for our family, for future grandchildren." The words hung in the air like smoke from a dying fire. I looked at this man who shared my DNA but none of my values. "What family?" Megan's financial threats escalated quickly. "We'll sue for our share of Margaret's estate. Kyle is entitled to half of everything. We know about the life insurance policy. Margaret left everything to me. The simple truth deflated her bluster momentarily. That's impossible. We're consulting a lawyer. I pressed the security button as Megan's voice reached dangerous levels. Mike Thompson returned with backup, their presence filling the office doorway. Several employees had gathered in the hallway, drawn by the commotion. "I'm not leaving!" Megan screamed as security approached. "This is theft! This is abuse!" Her resistance was futile but loud. The entire office heard her threats and accusations as she was escorted through the lobby. Kyle's humiliation reached new depths, watching his wife being physically removed from his former workplace. When the noise faded, Kyle remained alone with me. His last-ditch emotional manipulation came in a whisper. "I'm all the family you have left." The words were meant to break me. Instead, they clarified everything. I looked at this stranger who'd worn my son's face for 35 years and delivered the truth he needed to hear. "No, you're just someone who used to be my son." Kyle's face crumbled. For a moment, I saw the little boy who'd once run into my arms after school. Then the moment passed, and only the entitled stranger remained. He left without another word. I addressed my concerned employees with professional calm, explaining this was a personal matter that wouldn't affect business operations. Most nodded with understanding. They'd witnessed Kyle's poor performance for years. "Please ensure that Mrs. Foster is never allowed in this building again," I instructed security. Alone in my office, I felt my hands trembling slightly. The hardest part was over. I looked at Margaret's photo on my desk. "I hope you understand." Opening my computer, I searched for estate planning attorneys. Time to accelerate the next phase. I scheduled an appointment with Robert Chen for that afternoon, then noticed Kyle's birthday marked on my calendar for next month. I deleted it permanently. The prestigious law offices of Chen and Associates occupied the top floor of Davenport's tallest building. At 2:30 p.m., I walked into the reception area, carrying my leather briefcase containing Margaret's will, insurance documents, and the financial records that would reshape my family's future. The receptionist recognized me immediately, escorting me directly to Robert Chen's corner office. Afternoon sunlight streamed through tall windows overlooking downtown Davenport, illuminating rows of law books and active case files that created an atmosphere of serious business. Robert rose from behind his mahogany desk, concern evident in his eyes. We'd been friends for 20 years. He'd handled Margaret's will, my business incorporation, and countless legal matters requiring discretion. "How are you holding up, Alan?" His voice carried genuine sympathy. I declined his offer of coffee and settled into the leather chair across from his desk. "I need to make some changes to my estate planning." Robert's expression shifted to professional mode. "Of course. Updating beneficiaries after Margaret's passing is standard." "No." I opened my briefcase and extracted the documents. "I'm removing Kyle entirely." The words hit Robert like a physical blow. His professional composure wavered as he processed the implications. "Alan, I need to understand what's driving this decision." I explained Kyle's absence from the funeral calmly, including his exact words about Megan's birthday party. Robert's face darkened with each detail. As Margaret's friend and our family attorney, he understood the magnitude of Kyle's betrayal. "I want to create a completely new will," I continued. "The primary beneficiary will be the Margaret Foster Memorial Foundation." Robert leaned forward, his concern now focused on legal implications. "Alan, I'm obligated to ensure you're thinking clearly about this decision." "I've never been more certain of anything." I outlined my vision: education scholarships for underprivileged children, cancer research funding, causes Margaret had supported throughout her life. Kyle is to be explicitly excluded, along with any future descendants. Robert's admiration grew as I detailed the foundation structure. Moving company assets into an irrevocable trust would protect everything from potential lawsuits. I would retain control during my lifetime, with the foundation assuming ownership upon my death. "We'll need to change all insurance beneficiaries," Robert noted, making detailed notes. "This is extremely thorough planning." I had decided the family home would be sold, proceeds donated to the foundation. Margaret's jewelry would be auctioned for charity. The only exception, Margaret's wedding ring would be buried with me when my time came. What about Kyle's childhood belongings? Robert asked gently. Donated. I'm systematically removing Kyle from my life. Robert fulfilled his professional duty by questioning my mental state and decision-making capacity. My rational responses and detailed planning demonstrated clear thinking. He gradually shifted from concerned friend to admiring professional. The formal signing ceremony involved 2 legal witnesses from Robert's firm. My steady signature contrasted with the magnitude of each decision. Robert explained that these documents took immediate legal effect. Kyle was now completely disinherited. I want Kyle to receive formal notice of this change, I instructed. Additional legal protections followed quickly. Power of attorney documents removing Kyle's authority. Medical directives excluding him from healthcare decisions. A living will with specific instructions about my care. Robert documented my mental competency thoroughly. Tomorrow I would visit banks to update all accounts, removing Kyle as beneficiary from retirement funds and investment portfolios. Robert offered to help coordinate with financial institutions. The foundation planning brought unexpected peace. I nominated Robert as a trustee, discussed the board structure, and planned the first scholarship recipients. Margaret's memory would be honored through education, something she'd valued deeply. Margaret would be proud of this foundation, Robert said as we concluded. She always believed in education and helping others. For the first time in days, I felt genuine satisfaction instead of cold determination. Robert understood this wasn't revenge, it was justice. My transformation from grieving father to purposeful philanthropist was complete. We shook hands outside the law office. My phone showed 3 missed calls from Kyle, the first sign he was realizing the seriousness of his situation. I deleted the voicemails without listening and walked toward my car. The next phase awaited. The Davenport Country Club's elegant lobby welcomed me with familiar luxury. Mahogany panels, crystal chandeliers, and oil portraits of founding members created an atmosphere of old money and established values. As treasurer of the monthly board meeting, I'd walked these halls for 15 years. 12 board members gathered around the polished conference table, discussing routine club business before our official meeting. The smell of leather furniture and fresh coffee mingled with whispered conversations about recent events. William Hayes, our board president, approached with genuine sympathy. Alan, the memorial service was beautiful. Margaret would have been pleased. Thank you for the flowers, I replied graciously. Patricia Morton, Margaret's sister and a longtime member, joined our conversation. I kept looking for Kyle during the service. Where was he? The question I'd been expecting hung in the air. I paused, then decided truth would serve Margaret's memory better than diplomacy. Kyle chose not to attend his mother's funeral. The shocked silence spread like ripples across water. Patricia's face went pale. What do you mean, chose not to? I delivered Kyle's exact words about Megan's birthday party being more important. The visible disgust on board members' faces told me everything about their values. Values Kyle had abandoned. William's wife Nancy had been eavesdropping from the hallway. Within minutes, she was making phone calls. The story reached the ladies' bridge club within an hour, then spread through Davenport's social elite like wildfire. I returned home unaware of the social storm I'd unleashed. The first consequences struck Megan the next morning. Her yoga instructor at the exclusive studio asked her to leave mid-session. We prefer members with family values, came the cold explanation. Kyle's lunch invitation at the country club was rescinded with a polite but firm phone call. Their regular table at Romano's restaurant became permanently unavailable. Megan's confusion turned to growing anger as patterns emerged. Saturday morning brought Kyle's most humiliating moment. His golf foursome made transparent excuses and left early. The pro shop manager suggested Kyle might be more comfortable elsewhere. He walked to his car alone, understanding that everyone knew about the funeral. Megan's shopping experience at Bergdorf's boutique shattered her remaining illusions. The sales associate's cold reception replaced years of warm service. Her credit application faced mysterious delays. The manager suggested she might prefer shopping elsewhere. Kyle's professional isolation proved equally devastating. Job interviews were canceled without explanation. Former business contacts stopped returning calls. His networking lunch at the Chamber of Commerce became awkward and brief. Potential employers knew the story before he arrived. The final straw came at Elite Salon, where Megan's regular appointment was suddenly canceled. Overhearing other clients discuss her heartless husband, she fled in tears. The local newspaper's society columnist mentioned the disappointing absence at Margaret's service. Church congregation members expressed open disapproval. Former friends avoided Kyle and Megan at public events. Kyle's desperate attempts to explain the situation fell on deaf ears. His claims that I was exaggerating met with universal disbelief. Davenport's tight-knit community had rendered their verdict. Megan's breakdown was inevitable. She confronted Kyle about their ruined reputation, demanding he fix this situation immediately. When Kyle admitted he didn't know how, she threatened to leave him if things didn't improve. I heard about these social consequences from various sources, feeling satisfaction that justice was being served naturally. Davenport's values aligned with my own: family loyalty, respect for the dead, basic human decency. Kyle had violated all of them. The community was honoring Margaret's memory by rejecting those who dishonored it. My phone rang during breakfast. The bank manager's voice carried professional concern. "Mr. Foster, Kyle and Megan's mortgage payment is 30 days overdue. You're still guaranteeing the loan, correct?" I paused, considering the implications. I'd like to schedule a meeting tomorrow morning to discuss changes to my guarantees. Financial pressure would complete what social exile had begun. At 9 a.m., I walked through First National Bank's marble lobby, past the oil portraits of founding members who'd built their fortunes on honest work and family values. Bank manager David Harrison's corner office overlooked the Mississippi River, where barges carried cargo that built Davenport's prosperity for generations. David's nervous demeanor was evident as he reviewed Kyle and Megan's files spread across his mahogany desk. Mortgage papers, loan agreements, and guarantee forms created a paper trail of financial dependency that was about to end. "Alan, I appreciate you coming in on short notice." David's voice carried uncomfortable formality. "Kyle's mortgage is now 60 days delinquent. The amount due is $18,400. I sat perfectly composed, hands folded. "I understand you need my guarantee payment." "Well, yes, as you've done for the past 3 months." David's assumption hung in the air like smoke before a fire. "I'm withdrawing my guarantee, effective immediately." The banker's face went pale. I don't understand. You've guaranteed this loan for 8 years. I presented pre-drafted legal documents from Robert Chen's office. You'll find everything in order. 30 days' notice as required by law." David frantically called the bank's legal department, while I sat quietly watching morning traffic cross the bridge. Margaret and I had walked countless times. The lawyer's voice through the speakerphone confirmed what David feared. My withdrawal was perfectly legal. "This means we'll have to begin foreclosure proceedings," David said weakly. "I understand. Please expedite the process." Meanwhile, across town, Kyle endured his 10th job interview in 2 weeks. The interviewer's cold reception followed a pattern he'd learned to expect. His prepared explanations about seeking new challenges fell on deaf ears that had already heard the funeral story. "Thank you for your time, Mr. Foster. We'll be in touch." The polite dismissal carried finality. Kyle's growing desperation showed in his slumped shoulders as he walked to his aging Toyota. The BMW had been repossessed last month. That afternoon, Megan discovered the credit card crisis at Nordstrom. Her platinum card was declined for a simple purchase: mascara to replace the one she'd cried away. "There must be some mistake," she told the embarrassed sales associate. Her angry call to the credit card company revealed the truth. "Your co-signer has withdrawn his guarantee. The account is suspended pending full payment of the outstanding balance." Megan's public humiliation deepened as other customers watched her argue with customer service. The crystal-clear reality hit. Alan had systematically removed every financial safety net they'd taken for granted. Kyle and Megan returned home to find electricity disconnected. The utility company's notice cited unpaid bills totaling over $1,200. Kyle's failed negotiations with the payment department ended when they discovered his employment termination. Their first night by candlelight became a crash course in reality. Megan paced their dark living room, designer heels clicking against hardwood floors, accusing Kyle of destroying their lives. His weak attempts to blame Alan for being vindictive met with her growing hysteria. "Fix this or I'm gone," she declared with venom. Kyle's desperate credit applications were denied instantly. His debt-to-income ratio had become impossible without steady employment. Megan's maxed-out cards offered no relief. For the first time, they discussed bankruptcy with genuine fear. The garage sale of their luxury items brought pathetic returns. Wedding gifts that cost guests hundreds sold for $20. Former friends drove past but didn't stop. Megan watched her jewelry collection disappear to strangers, while Kyle sold his golf clubs to a teenager. The BMW's repossession in broad daylight provided the neighborhood's entertainment. Kyle's humiliation was complete as he removed personal items under the repo man's impatient watch. Megan screamed at the driver while neighbors peered from windows. I drove past their house that evening, observing the visible chaos with satisfaction. This wasn't cruelty, it was consequence. Margaret had always taught that actions have results. Kyle was finally learning that lesson. When Kyle called begging for a face-to-face meeting, claiming he had something important to say, I agreed to meet at Morrison Park the next afternoon. The same park where I'd taught him to ride a bicycle 30 years ago, when he still looked at me with love instead of calculation. I hung up and looked at a framed photo of young Kyle on his bicycle, remembering simpler times. Then I set the photo face down on my desk. 6 months after my bank meeting, the county foreclosure auction took place on the courthouse steps. I observed from across the street in my black sedan, watching as 1247 Maple Avenue, Kyle and Megan's former dream home, went up for public sale. The county auctioneer read the legal description with bureaucratic precision, while a small crowd of real estate investors and curious onlookers gathered. Kyle and Megan stood apart from the crowd, Megan's tears reflecting the morning sunlight. Through my binoculars, I watched their final humiliation unfold. Opening bid is $280,000 for this 4-bedroom colonial, the auctioneer announced. A woman in a navy business suit raised her hand confidently. Kyle frantically tried to identify her while whispering urgently to Megan. The bidding reached $315,000 with only 2 participants remaining, the mystery woman and a local contractor. When my attorney, Robert Chen, arrived and nodded to the woman, Kyle's growing suspicion crystallized into shocked realization. "That's Dad's lawyer," he whispered to Megan, his voice carrying across the quiet crowd. Megan's disbelief was audible. He couldn't. Kyle's desperate attempt to approach the mystery bidder was prevented by courthouse security. The auction continued with mechanical efficiency, while Kyle's world collapsed in real time. $317,000, called the woman in navy blue. Going once, going twice, sold. Kyle's legs gave out. Megan's scream, "This is our home," echoed off the courthouse walls as the auctioneer's gavel sealed their fate. I exited my car and walked toward the courthouse steps, my presence causing Kyle to understand the complete scope of my 6-month strategy. The guarantee withdrawal, the perfect timing, the bid amount calculated to exactly match the mortgage balance, everything had been orchestrated with business precision. The mystery bidder revealed herself as Sarah Mitchell, my trusted secretary, acting as agent for the newly formed Mitchell Holdings, LLC. Kyle stumbled toward me on shaking legs, his broken voice barely audible. "How could you do this to us?" "I didn't do anything," I replied calmly. "The bank did." His desperate pleas about Margaret's favorite garden and her love for this house met my cold response. "Margaret's not here to see what you've become." Megan's final attack came as a wild lunge, screaming accusations about elder abuse and mental incompetence. Robert Chen documented her hysteria, while security escorted her away from me. The entire scene provided perfect evidence of their true character. 2 weeks later, the moving truck looked pitifully small for their former life. Megan threw clothes into suitcases with violent anger, while Kyle carefully wrapped Margaret's crystal vase, the last gift that connected him to his mother. Their former neighbors watched, but offered no help. The social exile was complete. Megan's ultimatum came that evening. "I can't live like this anymore." Her confession about talking to her ex-boyfriend marked their marriage's breaking point. "I married into a wealthy family, not this." Her final cruel words cut deepest. Your father was right about us. Kyle spent his final night alone in the empty house, walking through rooms filled with memories of better times. In the kitchen drawer, he found Margaret's hidden note. Kyle, remember, we love you. For the first time, genuine tears of regret fell as he understood what he'd truly lost. I received the keys from Sarah Mitchell with quiet satisfaction. My decision to renovate the house and donate it to a deserving family would complete the circle. Margaret would approve of this justice. That evening, Kyle called from a payphone outside a cheap motel, his cell service canceled. The phone rang in my house, but seeing Kyle's name on caller ID, I let it go to voicemail. The final confrontation could wait. Kyle arrived at my front door at 7:30 p.m. on a cold November evening, 3 months after losing the house. His finger hovered over the doorbell for a full minute while I watched from the living room window, debating whether to answer. When I finally opened the door, I didn't invite him inside. Kyle's appearance shocked me. Unshaven, wearing a wrinkled shirt and jeans, he'd aged 5 years in 6 months. His obvious weight loss and defeated posture contrasted sharply with his former arrogance. Dad, I know I messed up terribly. His voice shook as he launched into a rehearsed speech about understanding his mistakes now. I listened impassively from the doorway as he described living in a studio apartment above a laundromat, working at a gas station for minimum wage, and Megan leaving him for her ex-boyfriend, who owned a restaurant chain. I've learned my lesson about what really matters, he claimed. When he switched tactics, suggesting I was lonely in this big house, and offering to be the son Mom wanted me to be, I recognized every manipulation technique he was using. When is your mother's birthday? I asked suddenly. Kyle paused, then guessed wrong. June 15th? What was her favorite flower? Roses? Another wrong answer. Margaret loved daisies. My realization was complete. Kyle had never really known Margaret at all. His growing frustration with my questions revealed his true nature. The old entitled tone crept back. This is ridiculous. Just tell me what you want me to say. Eventually, his real purpose emerged. Okay, yes, I need help. The eviction notices, the desperate promises to pay me back when I get on my feet, the suggestion that I was wealthy enough to help family. Kyle still saw me as an ATM. His final manipulation involved Margaret. Mom would be heartbroken to see us like this. She always believed in second chances. I miss her too, Dad. We both loved her. For a moment I wavered, remembering Margaret's kind heart. Then I realized this was exactly what Margaret had feared. You want to know what your mother really thought? I retrieved Margaret's hidden journal from her nightstand and read her own words. I'm worried Kyle only loves our money. What if we've raised a child who can't love? Kyle's shocked silence told me everything. Margaret died knowing what you really are, I said calmly. She changed her will before dying. She left you nothing because she knew you'd waste it. Kyle's mask finally dropped completely. His angry threats about contesting the will and calling me senile revealed his vindictive nature. His final cruel words, I hope you die alone in this house, gave me complete satisfaction at seeing his real character. I stepped back and closed the door quietly. Kyle pounded on it for several minutes while I walked to the kitchen and made tea as if nothing had happened. When his car finally drove away, I sat in Margaret's favorite chair, holding her journal, feeling completely at peace for the first time since her death. Looking at our wedding photo, I said quietly, It's finished, my love. 1 year later, I walked through Riverside Cemetery on a sunny May morning, carrying fresh daisies to Margaret's grave. Birds sang in the oak trees while spring flowers bloomed along the walking paths. I looked healthier and more at peace than I had in years. Kneeling beside Margaret's polished granite headstone, I arranged the new daisies while speaking softly about the Margaret Foster Memorial Foundation's thriving first year. 20 scholarships awarded to deserving students, $200,000 donated to cancer research in Margaret's name. The community center dedication planned for Margaret's birthday. Kyle works at Sam's gas station on Route 6, I reported matter-of-factly. His divorce was finalized. Megan remarried to her restaurant owner. Kyle lived in complete social isolation and financial struggle. I felt no satisfaction in his suffering, only justice. Leaving the cemetery, I stopped at Morning Glory Diner. Kyle worked behind the counter, wearing a stained uniform. Our eyes met across the diner. His shocked recognition and visible shame were palpable as I calmly ordered coffee, treating him like any service worker. "How are you doing, Dad?" Kyle's voice carried genuine humility for the first time. "I'm well, thank you." "I know sorry isn't enough," he said quietly. "No, it isn't." Kyle's admission surprised me. "I understand now what I lost. It was never about the money, was it? You wanted me to love you, not your wallet." "Your mother won that, too." For the first time, Kyle's tears seemed genuine. "I did what I had to do," I explained. "Margaret would have approved. I have no regrets about any of it." "I know," Kyle accepted. "I deserved all of it." "Yes, you did." When Kyle asked if there was any way back, I answered honestly, "I don't know. Maybe. You'd have to prove you've really changed, not with words. Show me through your actions." I described my new life: volunteer work at the community center, new friendships with other volunteers, Sunday dinners with the Johnson family whose daughter received a scholarship. I was dating Grace, a kind widow from church. My life was full of purpose and genuine relationships. Visiting Sarah Patterson, our first scholarship recipient, brought deep satisfaction. Her gratitude for the opportunity to attend nursing school, her letter to Margaret's memory on the foundation website. Margaret's memory lived on through education. Driving home past Kyle's old house, I saw the Ramirez family had transformed it into a home filled with love and gratitude. Mr. Ramirez waved from the garden Margaret once tended. Children played where Kyle once played. The house embodied everything Margaret had valued. That evening I prepared dinner in the kitchen I once shared with Margaret, setting one place without sadness. My phone rang with Grace calling about our weekend plans. I smiled, the first genuine happiness since Margaret's death. Standing in the garden at sunset, pruning Margaret's rose bushes, I felt the peace of a man who fought for justice and won. My certain knowledge that I'd honored my wife's memory brought complete satisfaction. Going to bed early, I slept soundly for the first time in 2 years, dreaming of Margaret smiling and telling me, "You did the right thing, Alan. I'm proud of you." Justice was served. Love had required tough choices, but the right choices. Rest in peace, my love. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching.